Valorant players are not happy with the current map pool. More people than ever are complaining, and overall it seems like the 7 map system that's in place at the moment simply isn't working. To make matters worse, it seems like we're going to be stuck with this current map pool for the entire upcoming act as well. When the game first launched, there were only 4 maps: Split, Bind, Haven, and Descent. Then over the next few episodes, we got the addition of Icebox, Breeze, and Fracture. So in the first 2 years of Valorant, we had 7 maps total in the game, so things were simpler. Back then, even if you weren't a fan of 1 or 2 of the maps, you probably still had a few favorites to look forward to. Compare that to now, where again, more people than ever seem annoyed at the choice of maps we currently have available. In this video, I'll talk about all the map pool changes we've had so far, to show why it's only become an actual issue now, as well as take a look at how this problem is only going to get worse for Riot, and then what they can even do about this issue at all. The first instance of a map being temporarily removed was back in June of 2022. Split was taken out and replaced by a new map, Pearl. This was a pretty big deal at the time, since we've never had a map taken away like this, but honestly Split did make the most sense to be removed back then, and it was only 1 map, so there wasn't exactly an uproar or anything. The next map pool change happened a little over 6 months later. Split returned with a few improvements. We got a brand new map in Lotus, while both Breeze and Bind were taken out of the map pool. Breeze was already unpopular at the time, so not many people were sad to see it go, and then between Lotus and the return of Split, overall these changes seemed beneficial, and again the majority of players weren't too bothered by this. Bind actually returned to the map pool pretty quickly. Only 3 months later in patch 6.8, it returned with a few updates. It replaced Icebox, which much like Breeze is far from the most popular map. So if you look at the overall pool at this point in time, there were 9 maps total with only 2 being out of rotation, and they were probably the most hated maps anyway, so again, nobody was upset. We didn't have to wait too much longer for the next update to the map pool though, as exactly 4 months later, we got the return of Breeze as well as the addition of Sunset. To make room, both Fracture and Pearl were removed, joining Icebox on the sidelines. Finally, we come to the most recent rotation update, when 4 months after the last changes, Icebox was added back, meanwhile Haven was removed. We also got some adjustments to Lotus as well, so even though it was just the 1 map coming back, it was sort of refreshing to play the updated version of Lotus. Now realistically, it hasn't even been 4 months since that patch, so it's not like we've been starved of changes or anything, and yet people seem unhappier than ever in their ranked games. But it's not just the bad maps that can make Valorant games frustrating. We've all had those matches where toxic teammates ruin the experience, turning what should be an exciting game into a miserable time. Having your game thrown just because someone else is in a bad mood is annoying, especially when you're on the verge of ranking up. But that's where tapin.gg comes in. They've built a thriving community that is the go-to solution for securing the best possible teammates to play with. Stop leaving it up to chance and getting people who are just there to cause chaos. The teammates you'll discover on Tapin aren't just your run-of-the-mill players. They're high-ranking, hand-verified champions who are defined by their positivity and friendliness. They're not just playing for themselves, they're playing to work together and win the game. These guys are the real deal. With lots of reviews on Trustpilot and a thriving community on Discord, Tapin has solidified its reputation as the go-to destination for finding quality teammates. Tapin's site is incredibly user-friendly. It's easy to make an account and start searching for people to play with. If you use my link, which you can see on the screen there, they'll even throw in a 50% off discount for your first teammate. So what are you waiting for? It's finally time to play with some good teammates. Go check out Tapin today. So that's how the map pool has evolved up until where we are now, with 10 total maps and 3 currently being unplayable. Of those 3, Fracture and Pearl have already been out for more than 7 months by now. If the next map pool update doesn't come until next episode, which is to be expected at this point, that would mean they were both out for 9 months. To go into a little more detail there, Riot recently tweeted the map pool for Premier in episode 8 Act 3. The Premier map pool has always been the same as the ranked map pool, so based on this tweet, we know that there will be no changes to the map pool in the next act. Like I said earlier, the most recent map pool change was when Haven was taken out not even 4 months ago. Relatively speaking, that isn't too long, but while the problem isn't exactly the frequency of the updates to the map pool, it's more about what's currently in the map pool. Between Breeze, Icebox, and Sunset, there are plenty of unsavory options to play at the moment. Even if you're like myself and actually don't mind those maps, you can at least agree that the majority of people seem to hate them, and then when almost half the map pool is maps people don't even want to play, you can see where the problem is. Even Lotus isn't exactly popular, so you could even throw that in there as well. The 7 map pool system has been implemented for almost 2 years at this point. The reason it's only become an issue now is because so many of the maps in the pool are unpopular. There was a 4-month stint where both Breeze and Icebox were out with the same system, and that was basically paradise for some people. Obviously, it is never going to be possible to please everyone, but with Fracture, Pearl, and Haven all currently out, I would imagine even just swapping one of those in for some variety this act would have been a good idea. Having said that, I'd love to know what your ideal map pool would be, so with the 10 we currently have, which 7 are your favorites, or even just which 3 you wouldn't want to play. Another thing worth keeping in mind is that we should be getting a new map soon in Valorant. I made a whole video about this a few weeks ago, but as a quick recap, this player card in the current battle pass seems to be a teaser for it, and there is also a Clove voicemail talking about a secret enemy base that is going to be some sort of cavern or grotto. It's been 8 months since Sunset was added, so I would say it's already been a long enough wait for a new map. However, it'll likely release in episode 9 and after VCT Masters Shanghai. As we know, Riot love to show off their new additions at the grand final of major tournaments. By that point, it'll be more like 10 months since Sunset was added. Whenever this new map does come though, it is only going to make things more difficult when it comes to the map pool. As assuming Riot stay adamant with 7 maps, we would literally have 4 out of rotation at one time. What this means is that when episode 9 releases in a few months, we could potentially have up to 3 maps removed at once to make room. My best guess would be Ascent, Split, and Lotus removed for Fracture, Pearl, and the new map, but you can already see how complicated this gets as more and more maps exist in the game. To know why Riot are so adamant about having 7 maps in the pool, we must go back to this article from June of 2022. This was when Split got taken out for Pearl, and they had to explain what the thought process was behind the change. Their main reason was to keep a smaller pool of maps for new players to learn, and so the game wouldn't be too overwhelming to pick up. Additionally, they think that having too many maps available at once makes it difficult to really master any one of them. Another key reason though is related to the VCT or Pro League, as 7 maps is ideal for the pick and ban phase they go through. As an example from Riot themselves, as they pointed out, with a map pool of 7, this means the best of 5 grand final can have 2 map bans without any repeat picks. It also seems like Riot insists on keeping the competitive and unrated map pools the same. They did give an explanation to this back when they introduced the 7 map pool, and that's why to this day you'll see maps removed out of all game modes, even the ones like Swift Play. So for those reasons, Riot have kept the 7 map pool in place up until now, but like I've pointed out in this video, going forward the system is only going to become more annoying as more maps are rotated out and for longer periods of time. I'd say they need to start considering alternative approaches to the map pool, and I think one potential would be separating the competitive map pool from the pro play map pool. Now for the pros, it does actually make sense to have 7 maps. Like I said, it makes the pick and ban process easier, and additionally, less maps means that the teams can focus on the ones actually in play and not worry about the ones that aren't in rotation. This simply isn't as important though for your everyday ranked player, so I think one possibility is just removing the map pool as a whole and keeping all the maps in at once, just for the normal game modes and separately to pro play. There's 10 maps right now and soon to be 11, which yeah is a lot for new players to learn at once, but what about agents? There's an ever-growing roster there and new players just have to deal with that. I think it should be the same for maps. Alternatively, at least for the casual player base, they could make the maps rotate faster. Maybe instead of months out at a time, maps will go out for only a matter of weeks. They could still have it that there are 3 maps out at once, but this way a new one could come in and out once a week and keep things more refreshing. Probably the most popular suggestion I've seen though is that Riot should implement a map voting system, where the players themselves choose what maps they want to play when they queue up for Valorant. However, the devs have already addressed this option, and they basically said they didn't want to implement it so there wouldn't be increased queue times, and you can see that's exactly what happens in CS. The more popular maps take like 2 minutes to queue into, whereas the less popular ones take upwards of 15 minutes. Similarly, they addressed adding a map pick and ban system, and while that is another potential solution, based on this answer I think that is something we're only going to see in Premier, and I doubt that system will ever be added into your everyday ranked games. All those different solutions I just went through to the 7 map pool problem have their own downsides and drawbacks too, but I think that's just the reality of the situation and you can't really please everyone here. I do have to give credit where credit is due to the devs for the way they've improved the experience over time when it comes to maps. Like originally there was nothing stopping you from getting the same map for massive streaks in a row, then in patch 4.4 they introduced the deterministic map system to make the overall experience better and less stale for some players. I do trust that they are working hard to find whatever solution is best for everyone, but in the meantime we're stuck with the current state of things. But yeah, I just wanted to make a video talking about the map pool system and why something probably needs to change. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this topic, so let me know your ideal map pool, or alternatively what changes you think Riot should put in place to make the game less stale when it comes to maps.